Okay, good evening, friends. We'll be having a very quick overview of what tenders and contracts are. Before we go, I'll just revisit this cost to remember what we did in the previous class. We were looking at the cost. We have indirect costs and we got direct costs. Always there is a cost at the onset of a project. Before the project starts itself, you will be having to spend money. It may be less or more depending on the type of project. So at any point of time, this is the total money you should have spent. Okay, so this is duration. As the duration goes on, your indirect cost curve will keep increasing. However, this curve will reduce. How is it reducing? First, you might have spent 10 crores. Next 2 months, you wouldn't have spent any money. Okay, so over a period of time, then the next maybe slightly lesser. So what happens is the average of that is coming. So your direct cost will always keep reducing. So the last month of your project, for instance, what would have been the money which you would have been paying for the materials which you are buying, or for the cost which your laborers whom you are using, tools and plant which you are using, all this would have come down drastically. But your site office and all such establishments are having a cost which will be continuously added. Okay, so there is a limitation to which you can, yes, yeah. Yes, it is as if it's going along. Yes. See, basically what I'll say is this is a portion, this particular snippet is true at any point of time in a project. This is just a snippet. Probably, for example, let's say that it's only concreting that you're talking about. So in the overall project, if you're looking at this graph in particular, okay, so to crash it, you would have had some initial cost. This cost is a constant cost. You have not you have not come to this point yet. Like you're not, for example, it would have started at say 1 lakh rupees at the onset. Now after 10 months, this point would be 10 lakhs. This would have been 10 lakhs. Same thing applies to concreting. For this particular operation, you have spent this much of money as direct cost. You brought the tools and plant, you already spent that much money. So here in this, of course, because we are putting it in the terms of crashing, the word crash is happening. Okay, so what essentially I'm trying to convey is we are showing a subset of the entire curve. This curve is true for a project. Okay, so his question is, why did we start at crash, not at the onset of the project? This particular graph looked very appealing to explain what I wanted to explain. Hence, I brought it here. And you're right. If you look at it, it could have started from the initial point also. It isn't starting because this was to illustrate crashing that it was done. But the shape is going to be the same. The profile or what it's going to look like is not going to change. That is going to be a constant. Okay. So what is crashing? Crashing means you're putting in more resources. You may be spending much more money, but you're reducing time. Other thing is also possible where you try to stretch time by reducing the resources. Okay, so that also you could probably do depending on what the project requirement is. When will that happen? Where the contractor deliberately slows down the project. Lack of fund, but most likely it will be, yes, lack of fund is also correct. uh, what happens is sometimes the buyer will stop making payments. Okay, once a buyer stops making payments, you are apprehensive to do the job. Okay, so at that time also they will try to stretch the project a little. Okay, now these are some of the limitations which people will face when you try to crash. There's a physical limit of a critical activity. Okay, physically you cannot start to do the you cannot start to remove the bottom shuttering in 1 day after concreting. Although you might be doing that for the side shutter, you will not be able to do it for the bottom. Even if you remove the bottom shuttering, you cannot remove the props. Props have to be there for the period of time. Physically, it is required. So you cannot just like that keep reducing the time. It means that if that activity requires 14 days, 14 days the props have to be there. You cannot physically remove it less than that. If it had been 20 days, then you can try to crash it by bringing it to 14. 6 days you may try to save. Okay, but you cannot do it beyond a particular limit. Logically, you cannot start curing before you place the concrete. So there is a logical limit of some critical activity. Okay, then there would be a network. Okay, there will be a particular route using which only you can probably achieve or start another activity. Okay, for instance, there will be 2 or 3 parallel activities. One might be excavation, one might be fabrication of the structure, structural steel, and the third might be fabrication of the foundation. Okay, even though the foundation is finished, you cannot say I am going to place the foundation before the excavation is complete. Okay, so there is no way that network logic can be violated. Okay, then you can have many parallel paths, but it would so happen that you cannot go slower than the previous path. Okay, for instance, we were showing this slide. So 7 days here, 5 plus 2, 7. Okay, if suppose there's this were 8, there is no way by which you can reduce it to a number below 8. Okay, so this is what we this is what I mean by the statement shortening limited by a parallel critical path. Okay, and there is a critical path which cannot be reduced at all. Okay, so when you are having such a logic, so there also you are going to be finding that it's not possible to actually do much of crashing. Okay, so this is what we were looking at in the previous class. Okay, this is something which is slightly built upon over what we did in the previous class. So do you have any queries about this crashing or stuff like that, or this parallel paths what we saw? And okay, now I'll go for what I wanted to cover today, a brief introduction to what this tender is all about. Okay, this will probably be answering a lot of your questions. Like, people are asking if the quality of the work is going to suffer, what will happen? Okay, if I'm crashing, is it acceptable that the quality of work also suffers? So stuff like that we probably will be looking at here. So basically, these are the types of construction that we have: light construction, medium construction, and heavy construction. We have 2 words here: tenders and contract. What is a tender? What's a contract? Tender is an expression of interest by one party to to get a job done. Okay, you can have tender for almost any activity which you do. Okay, supply of manpower in the construction site, or even like the hotels. For VIT also, if manpower is required. Okay, so your security guards, some of the security guards are under our contract stuff. So VIT is expressing an interest. I want some people who will be doing the job of a guard. Okay, then once you are expressing an interest, 10 parties will come and say, I am willing to do the job. Okay, it may be a construction activity, it can be anything else. So then we enter into a legal agreement. Okay, it's a written or spoken agreement for execution of a job with specific terms and conditions. So this is the most important thing here. So when you are doing a job and you're crashing the project, okay, then definitely you are also expected to do the other research. How many of you saw the paper today, Hindu paper, by any chance? What was the first page on it? Yeah, collapse of a bridge. When something goes wrong in civil engineering, in the field of civil engineering, it is always huge. Okay, and what is the reason attributed by the contractor? Act of God. Okay, God is coming into the strangest of places, no? Okay, so this one of the ways you can escape in a tender is this legal agreement can be broken if you say and prove that something was an act of God. Okay, this bridge collapsed. I don't know much about the technical details, so I will not go into that. But what are events which are usually associated as with acts of God? Please come forward here. Earthquake, very good. This flash floods, okay, see, Chennai floods was unexpected. Chennai floods happened because they opened a few reservoirs indiscriminately. Okay. On the other hand, you have a monsoon cycle well established. In Mumbai, you know when the rain is going to come. In spite of that, and in Mumbai, any Mumbaites here? Okay, so in Mumbai, the monsoon is also as good as the local trains. No, they stick to time, right? Both the local train and the monsoons, they are very punctual. So uh, that is the thing, where a contractor knows it's likely to flood. In spite of that, if he's not taking precautions, it's not going to be considered as an act of God. Okay. Then other things from using which you can escape is war. Okay, riots. If it's a real riot, which was not attributed to the, for example, some employee dies in the plant, there's a riot, then probably the scenario will not be the same as when some external political, for a political party or something, they start to do something and riots are there. That's a totally different scenario. Under such circumstance, you can prove that it was a riot. Okay, war, terrorist attack. So these are all things which are not in the hand of the person signing the contract, that he'll do the job. So under such circumstance alone, you will find that you can probably try and escape. Okay, so these are some of the types of contracts. There's a unit price contract. You say that this is for doing this particular job. If I'm doing, for example, t-shirts, each t-shirt is going to cost you 10 rupees if you get 100 t-shirts or 1000 t-shirts. I'm just giving a random number. Okay, so unit price means, for instance, your manhole covers. Okay, that is sold as a unit. Okay, then lump sum. Usually most of the work we do is on lump sum basis. You say that you do this work, remove all the debris from site, all the debris, you'll get 3 lakh rupees for a small site, say. Then cost plus, that was something we spoke about earlier, right? When we're talking about cost, it's the safest contract. The cost, whatever is the cost you incur, the owner will bear it. He'll, in addition to that, give you a small percentage, or he'll give you a small fixed amount, which is absolutely having no risk. Then there's that incentive. If you finish the project in time, only when this incentive is there, this crashing and all that, people are going to be looking at. You crash the project spending 3 lakh, and then you are paid an incentive of 5 lakhs. What's your profit? 2 lakh. Okay, you would have waited 2 months to get your payment, but you're getting your payment 2 months in advance. You are also getting, right? So it's an incentive for you in a lot of ways. Okay, then percentage of construction is also a very common thing. If you do the earthwork, it will be considered like around 10 or 15 percentage of the work, for instance. So that means they'll pay you 15 percentage of the entire contract value. So stuff like that is the percentage of construction contract. In all the things, time is always there, and nothing that is there without the time. Okay. So tender gives you the intent for a project where there is a prospect of financial gain for those who participate. Okay. Yesterday we also saw the benefits of an EPC contract. Okay. Just think about it. I'm not going back to that. So EPC contract is very attractive for a buyer. Okay. This is a typical tender notice. Okay. This is the e-tender. So it says it's an online tender. They say it's a two-cover. Two-cover system means one is a financial bid, one is the there is financial or commercial bid, the other is the engineering bid or technical bid. Usually in the bid will be, the first will be the technical bid, then they'll have the financial part of it. Okay, so you'll have to qualify in both the cases. Sometimes you'll have to pre-qualify before you can even submit your tender. Okay, so that's what we were talking about. The triple CL went for a loss and still took the airport project because they wanted to pre-qualify for bigger jobs. Okay, so then there is always the date, last date. You cannot see, earlier people used to escape because citing postage delays. Now it is all to the last minute. It's all to the last minute. Okay, I know how people in the tender department work. If the government says it's 12 o'clock midnight, you have to submit it by 12 o'clock in all respects. Okay, so otherwise it will just be locked. Okay, yeah. If the quality is bad, okay, there will be, yes. See, the if the quality is bad, the penalty will be already mentioned in the tender. Yes, there will be. It should also be marked in the tender. Okay, just wait for a little while. Go through. I mean, let me just go through a little more. Then we will come back here. Okay. So in tendering, first there's an invitation to participate. Okay. So online tenders are hereby invited. Okay, they are inviting it. Then you'll have to prepare a bid which will be successful, which will be attractive to the person who's looking at it. Why should he give it to XYZ instead of ABC? Because of something where the buyer wins. So you have to show it. Then there's a lot of negotiation involved. Okay, those of you who have worked with the ICS, you will know the negotiations which our purchase department does. The same thing any company's purchase department will do. They will negotiate. They'll say, why don't you cut it here? Other people are able to do it so cheaply. Why don't you do it? Okay, so a lot of things are there. So the two-stage bidding we talked about. Then there is this execution of the job. Okay, then there is obligation on the part of the buyer to give the contractor enough space to work and also pay the money in time, get necessary permissions, and the contractor in his part, on his part, he should do the work in time. Okay, then there might be some amendments. Add, why are you only looking at this? Please add a little bit of greenery. Okay, do a little bit of landscaping work. It's a very common request in a project. Okay, so sometimes they'll say you would have told we will leave the septic tank, I mean the sewage, at a point 15 meters or 20 meters from the edge of the building or edge of the battery limit. Then the bidder will notice that he is not able to do it within 25 meters, so he will give an amendment. Okay, sometimes there will be also a renewal clause. Okay, for example, AMC of all the audio equipment in VIT, you can send it out as a contract. Many of your air conditioners are all under AMC, right, in your house and all that. So just like that, you can also get a renewal. Okay, you can say, for example, if you do this maintenance work, we'll give you further maintenance work to you itself. We also do it. Like for example, even TT is getting painted, so that's a kind of civil work only. Okay, so these are some of the benefits of tendering. So you can get a lot of response. Many people will respond to a tender document because many people want to make money. Okay, and these tenders are sealed. Nobody will be able to open it before the set date, and all the parties involved will be sitting on the table when they open the tender. So specification is same. Okay, for all the parties, they'll say that you will have to use M25 grade concrete. You have to use this particular shade of color. You have to use this make of tiles. So specification is same for all. Okay, and also look at this. EMD is earnest money deposit. If suppose you happen to be what they call as L1. L1 is the lowest bidder. Okay, if you are L1, you will have to take the job if the person wants to give you. So if suppose there's a power plant project, I make a bid for one rupee. Okay, I am definitely L1 bidder, but am I serious? So if suppose there is a job which is to the order of a few crores, a very significant portion of it will be called as earnest money. Okay, earnest money can be in the form of bonds. Okay, it can be security bonds from banks, it can be money which is itself given by the company. If suppose they have enough money or resources, they can do it. They can give some kind of collateral also, which is specified. Okay, if you look at the CPWD manual of works, what are the acceptable forms of earnest money will be there. And also, if you fail to deliver, this is where your question is getting answered. If you fail to deliver, what are the penalties? Are you going to forfeit your security deposit? Are you going to make good only? Are you going to give a discount to the purchaser? And it is legally binding. It's legally binding on both the parties. You get a work done and you don't pay, for that also there's a penalty. Okay. So these are some of the flip sides. Okay, as you rightly told, inferior materials could be used. Safety standards of one company may not be the same as what another company does, and tendering process itself can be slow because you have to know. You cannot just simply say I want to build a power plant. You have to know how much it's likely to cost. If you know that it's going to cost 500 crores, then you are in a position to judge whether a bid is competitive or not. Okay. So, in any case, I don't know if one more thing, this margins may prevent leaders from coming in. What is this? See, the site establishment cost for an organization like L&T is very huge. It's very, very huge. Okay, most of their executives are flying in jets. A small company will expect even the top person to use second class or third AC. It's true. But in L&T, the lowest person is almost eligible for third AC. If that person is having a job description to travel, he can travel in third AC. Most of the engineers can travel second AC or even first AC. And flying for certain cadre of engineers was just like that. It was default. If it is a distance more than overnight journey, compulsorily you should fly. So you can imagine the expense which the company is incurring. And you can imagine that if a slightly high GM or anybody goes, he's going to get business class. He's going to get 5-star hotel accommodation if it's there. So the cost of establishing and maintaining this project itself is very high. So the margin may become so low, like if you're doing so much of work and hardly getting 5% as profit, there's no point in doing that work. You may as well have put the money in the bank. So this means today NTPC jobs are at a premium. L&T is not able to take such jobs because you have to cut margins to such level that you can't make a profit. So they've decided we will not take NTPC jobs. Okay, so this is what we mean by saying margins may prevent leaders from coming in. Okay, and when you get a job, you will first make the layout. You will finalize design and specification. Okay, so you will say what you're going to deliver, whether it's going to be possible to deliver. Then you will prepare your drawings and all the stuff and do it. Okay, so this is some of the pre-tender works which you do. You will get drawings. You have to study it. Specifications are yes, yes, yes. That's see that is called feed. Okay, feed is a term which I don't think is used in India. Feed is front end engineering design. Front end engineering design. At Saipem, we used to do a lot of feed work. It means if some sheikh is having a oil field, he doesn't have any. He knows oil is there, but he doesn't have any technical knowledge. So he'll come to Saipem. We will do all this. We will give drawings. We will give specifications based on site condition, existing facility, everything we'll take into account. It will be so good that you can probably even do the drawings. Most of the feed which we did for foreign clients were to the order of what an Indian company would have been doing for construction. Okay, so that is one experience which I had. Okay, which I can say, like we were doing work for the buyer side. So under that circumstance, what you're saying is getting answered. I hope you get what I mean. Okay, so these are all going to be done. So your specifications are defined. Before you get a contract, specifications are defined. NTPC job 4 volumes will be this big. 4 volumes. So maybe 50% or maybe even 70% of that will be commercial terms. 30% is engineering, which is also significantly a big number, big size, right? So if you are in the contract side, you will have to go through that 70%. If you are in the engineering side, you should be very thorough with the 30%. Okay. So this is what I define as a compelling bid. It should use alternate materials. It should use an alternate methodology. It should use alternate layout. Client will give a layout for say for a plant. It would be a feed by some other company. But then you say, sir, your feed is nonsense. Instead of having the conveyor layout like this, why don't you move everything ulta? It was a very favorite technique of our bosses. They'll find out immediately weaknesses. They'll say your contour is like this, and you're making it go in this direction. Why don't you make it like this? Cutting and filling is definitely going to be lesser. Then they'll say, okay, why don't you work it out and tell? We'll say, no, no, no. If you give us the job, we will do it and give you. You are making the client want to give you the job because you're showing a lot of intelligence. You're looking at weaknesses of another person, another engineer. Actually, it's another engineer's work you're ridiculing, but the owner gets a feel that yes, these people will be better. Yes. In this context, I'm not willing to answer. I enjoy both, yeah, so I cannot answer this. No, no. See, teaching. See, if you are having an aptitude for teaching, you or if you like teaching, I don't know. In difficulty, I don't see anything. See, I'm sorry, I don't, I don't see this one. See, teaching or any other job, any job you take, if you want to try to keep improving on what you're doing, okay, if you're doing something out of the ordinary, definitely it's difficult. As long as you're going with the flow, be it in a construction site, if your boss is saying bend down, you bend down. You stand. Your boss is you're not doing anything to this one. But if you are questioning, why is it that the crane has to come only in this direction? Why not? Maybe you are having a better thing, but you have a lot of fight in doing it. Okay, even if it's a design, why is it that only this method you're saying? Why don't we used to compare when you're doing a pre-tender study, you'll compare XYZ projects. This project is similar to this and we use this much of quantity. So this is your boss's perspective, but you say why don't we go ahead with something totally different? Okay, for example, instead of going with the conventional way of shuttering in the steel structure, you go with a permanent shuttering. Okay, so immediately what happens, the boss is may agree, he may not agree, but you are not doing what is the norm. So you that is a difficulty in design or in a side job or in teaching. So it depends on how you want it to be. If you want to really make a mark, if you want to make a difference, then you have to do something different, and that is not easy. Okay, so that was a total tangent. Okay, but so this is what makes a compelling bid basically. Okay, then you have to schedule very smartly. You have to schedule very smartly. Okay, you should estimate the amount of work, and then see, or change the order of work means the sequence in which you do the work. Sometimes if you do it differently, you're going to make a big difference. You can modify the time required. Like we saw that small example of how you could probably crash parallel activities. Maybe it was not a physical example where we told, okay, this is the concreting which we are reducing or stuff like that. It was just shown as an activity diagram. But but I'm sure that you understand the principle which we talked about. Okay, so this is what we have to do. We have to take take the schedule in a very smart manner. Okay. So do you have any questions on this? So next we're going for international tenders. We had a session with one of our alumni members on globalization. Okay. Today no company can afford to be truly Indian. If you say I'm only going to work within the geographic boundaries of India, you're not going to be able to make money. Okay. But there's a lot of risk. Okay. For instance, you look at the Vodafone case, Keynes Energy, they came to India wanting to make money, but now they're caught up in a legal hurdle. This is one of the biggest things which will happen when you work across geographical boundaries. Okay. So in if you're going to take some World Bank aided projects, you have to go for this format. Okay, they call it international competitive bidding. So how all the criteria is predefined. Okay, and Typically the language is English. Typically the language is English, except for some cases where they say French or some other languages done. So this is what will be there in a contract document. First is the cover page. It will give you all the details, all the logos and all the things of the employer of the various people. Contents page. Then NIT is the notice inviting tender. The tender notice what we showed as an example, that will always be there. Then the form of the tender, okay, that is there will be a lot of things which have to be given in the mandatory order. What is the security, what is the previous work which you have done? It will all be in a sequence. So you have to compulsorily adhere to that form only. In fact, in many cases, people will specify the font size, people will specify so many other things which we normally don't think about in India. Okay. Then you will have the schedule of issues of material. So, if suppose it's a power plant, because I've worked a lot with power plant, the first word that jumps out is power plant. First thing that you will have to place an order is the boiler. So when is the boiler going to be delivered inside? This is some question which the buyer is very interested to know, because he knows if the boiler comes, the rest of the stuff is there, it's not going to work. And the boiler needs to be assembled before the some other construction work can be finished. And you may bring all the piping. If the piping is there, because the boiler is coming in, you'll find that it's not able to place it. So that is why, what is the schedule in which you're issuing material will also come into a big question. So of course, sometimes the drawings will be issued by client, but EPC, the contractor is expected to make the drawings. Specifications will be given by the uh, client. Some indicative drawings will always accompany the tender though. You cannot use it for construction. They're just for getting an understanding. Okay. And conditions of contract. This is where, what happens, what if you lose time? What if you slip in the delivery? What if you don't make the quality? All these will come into the picture. Okay. So you will have all the specifications which you need. These are some of the type of specification. Contractually, what you should do. Okay. Then there will be some general specifications. So some guidelines will be there. That's guide specification. Some general aspects are there. Then detailed specification will be, they'll go into nuts and bolts, how the curing process is to be done and all the stuff like that. And manufacturing specification means if you are manufacturing a beam, what is the welding technique which has to be done, what is the electrode which you have to use, how many passes you have to have in the thing. So but maybe it may not be directly affecting civil engineers, but that is also part of contract. Okay. So I'm not going too much into the details of this. But anyway, do you have any doubt in this, or would you like to ask any questions? Yes. And don't worry, this is not going to be part of your CAT. This is not part of your CAT. Okay. So these are the things of the contract. Okay. LD is liquidation damage. Okay, liquidation damage means if suppose you don't deliver, the person can come with an LD clause. He'll say, because you didn't deliver, I've lost so much of money, so you have to make good. Okay, EMD is earnest money deposit. When you are making the bid, you'll go for the EMD. Once you get the bid, you will have to have a security deposit. Okay, see, escalation and extension. When is escalation possible? It means price you would have quoted for 100 crores, but because the oil price went 30% or 40% more, your delivery cost is going to also increase. So they'll say, if suppose certain parameters are going to change, then you can ask for more money. Owner will also be liable to pay. Then extension, because of certain things like your force majeure clause, okay, where acts of God and all the stuff come, then that will be marked clearly here when you can ask for an extension. Okay. Okay, just go through this, and if you have any doubt, you can probably ask. Okay. Now I will probably stop with this. Okay. I we've been going through a lot of